Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Paul, Menti, and Carter. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and make sure to have your notifications on for all of our future streams and videos. We will have our predicted 11 for our clash against Sheffield United out hopefully tomorrow. If not, it will be Wednesday, so make sure you have notifications on for all of that. And we will be live every day this week, other than the post-game match, again, a post-game stream against Sheffield, which will be on at about 9:30, thereabouts, and then we'll be live every other day from 7:30, and we will have a post-game stream following our 12:30 kickoff, another 12:30 kickoff against Crystal Palace at the weekend on Saturday, so make sure you stick around for that too. But without further ado, we will get into some of the news stories for today, and it's been a bit of a juicy day with lots of news stories coming through. The first one that we will get into is a Liverpool and Newcastle seem to have entered the race to sign Lois Openda from RB Leipzig, the 5'9" centre forward who can play all across the front three. He's very flexible, very amenable to different positions, and can play left wing, right wing, or play up the middle. He's very, very versatile in how he plays. He's absolutely on fire with his goal scoring at the moment. He's 14 goals in all competitions and 3 assists in 21 appearances. So he's absolutely on fire, and we've seen against Man City in the Champions League where he performed very, very well and got a couple of goals there, I believe. But I'll throw some questions over to everybody, and as well with everybody in the chat too. Please feel free to fire any opinions or anything like that into the chat as well. It's very much appreciated. Carter, I'll start with yourself. Lois Openda, he's a 23-year-old, 5'9" centre forward. We already have our Darwin Núñez, and we have our Cody Gakpo. If we were to get him, now I'm not sure what fee RB Leipzig could be letting him go for. I can't imagine it'll be any small fee. But do you see him fitting in anywhere particular across that front line, given the strength of that front line at the moment?
I feel like you'd have to say almost left wing, but I did look on sort of transfer marks earlier, and it said he'd only played 6 games there in his sort of career. So it is kind of one way you think if it's more of an inside forward role for us, maybe you could get away with putting him there. But if we want more of a winger, I don't really know where he fits. If you have Núñez, Jota, and him, and Gakpo, I almost feel like that's one where, are we looking to move someone on? Are we looking at Jota saying, another injury, he's a proven player, you could probably get a good fee for him? Or are we looking at Luis Diaz, whose old manages, I believe, Al Hilal, one of the 2 teams? I think his old manages one of them. So are we looking to maybe move away from one of those? Because I just don't see how he would fit. I think he's a young player. He's on form. He's going to have a lot of suitors. You look at Chelsea, Newcastle, maybe as Callum Wilson's getting a bit older, as we said. Man United, maybe his depth for Højlund. You just don't know. I just feel like he's going to want to go somewhere and play, and we probably at the moment couldn't offer him that.
It wouldn't be starting minutes at the moment. I completely agree with you, unless, as you said, somebody moved on. Jen, thank you so much again. Jesus, funding our January transfer window. That's very much appreciated. We'll be able to afford Mbappe at this rate. Thank you so much for the £19.99. It all goes back towards the channel for making content for you guys. And as always, it is majorly appreciated. Thank you so much, Jen. Jamie has mentioned he's not sure if any of these are real, with silly season being just around the corner. Menti, similar question to Carter. He has, as I mentioned, his goal scoring and his assisting. He averages a goal and an assist he averages 0.85 goals or assists every 90 minutes, which is, you might as well just round that up to he scores or assists at least every game. Do you see? Are you of a similar mind to Carter in that you don't see him coming, or you don't see the interest in him being anywhere real, unless we have reservations about, as Carter mentioned, Jota's injury history, maybe Luis Diaz looking to move on, as his father mentioned he wanted to play in Barcelona. Because I don't see him starting up the middle for us unless we move Gakpo out to the left and we use him as a backup to Darwin Núñez. But then again, as Carter mentioned, he could have starting minutes elsewhere, with rumours of Erling Haaland being shipped off to Real Madrid in the summer. So do you see him fitting in at all, or is this, as Jamie has mentioned, silly season?
Nah, I think it's very much silly season. As a player, he would definitely fit in our system. Great player. But I really don't see him getting into the team right now, just because we have that firepower at the moment. I feel like we have other areas to focus on rather than an attacker, which we're tied to like everyone at this moment. But yeah, no, I just think it's silly season.
Yeah, I think so too. To be honest, it's just one of them things. Unfortunately, Paul, are you in agreement with Carter and Menti? Do you think it's silly season? Do you feel he could fit in anywhere now? And before, I don't know if you've checked it, but he is right-footed, so he's definitely not playing right wing for you. But could you see him maybe falling into a Luis Diaz role on the left if Luis Diaz was to move on, or is it a one-in, one-out situation with Lois Openda possibly joining Liverpool, or do you see it as Menti mentioned, just complete silly season?
I don't see the need for him right now. He's roughly the same age of the wingers that we currently have. He's 23?
Yeah, 23.
And I think Diaz is like 23, 24. Scoring goals in the Bundesliga is all well and good. To do it in the Premier League is a whole different ballgame. It's kind of player that we could take a punt on if price was right and we have a need. But right now, I'm pretty sure they're going to want north of 40, 50 million for him. And there's no reason to spend that kind of money to stock their front line. Even if we're going to move on Jota, because this guy I think is a number 9, and I don't like my number 9 to be 5'7", 5'8". I think he's a little bit small.
He's 5'9". Yeah, I thought that as well. When you have the
Yeah.
likes of Cody Gakpo, who's 6'3", and Darwin Núñez, who's 6'2", like.
I mean, I'm not averse to getting a true number 9 if we can find one, because I still believe that Darwin's best position is on the left wing, but I don't. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe I'm watching football for too long, but I don't like my number 9 to be that small. So
I think
now
the
I
game has
don't see
moved
where
on,
he fits.
Paul, realistically. Like, you have the likes of a Haaland, you have the likes of an Isaac, you have Ollie Watkins, you have these big physical
Yeah,
guys.
but these guys are 6 foot plus. So
That's what I mean.
point.
That the game's moved on.
Yeah. So no, I really don't see where he fits in at all, because we have more important positions to fill. I think it's just paper talk.
I think so too. I think it's just purely silly season. We're getting similarly to the CDM role. We're getting our name thrown at anybody. Realistically, it's all for clicks. Would I like him as a player to arrive? Sure, but I think he'd end up similarly to the Saka argument that we had previously on other streams and in the group chat, of that we were sort of in for Saka when Arsenal were just forming their current team. But Salah was at the height of his powers, 28, 29, 27, at that age. So realistically, it wouldn't have been a smart purchase, and Saka may not have turned into the player that he is now. So if I'm Lois Openda and I'm looking at Liverpool as somebody who would be interested in me, I'd be very hesitant in moving there, purely because of the fact that I'd have very reduced minutes. I could go to a Newcastle, I could go to a Man City, I could go to a Man United even, or any of them. I'd get more minutes that way, especially at a Man United, because they're desperate for a centre forward, albeit that they have Højlund and Martial there, but that's all not much. But just a couple of updates that we'll move on to, but before we get into them, please do like and subscribe. We've over 30 people in here at the moment, so help us get to that 10k mark, hopefully before the end of the next transfer window, or even before the next transfer window. That'll be absolutely monumental. Make sure you have your bell notification on for all of our future streams, and that we will be live following the Sheffield United game at about 9:30 UK time on Wednesday, and we'll also have a post-game stream following our Crystal Palace game on Saturday, following another 12:30 kickoff at about 2:30 UK time in the afternoon. It's so a couple of bits of news, as Jen is asking, on Matip and Alisson. There's no news on Matip as of yet. The only thing that I've seen so far, now please Carter, Menti, Paul, correct me if you guys have seen anything. The only thing that I've seen is Klopp's comments following the game, where he said it's not going to be a short one. Outside of that, I don't think we've received any update as of yet. There's been no update on that at all, I'm afraid, as far as I'm aware. Alisson, thankfully though, is going to be back in training later on this week, and that's probably a topic now we can touch on, since you've helped us into it, Jen. He's back in training later this week, should be available for the Palace game. Menti, would you select him for the Palace game, or would you fear a re-aggravation of the hamstring injury?
Honestly, I still wouldn't select him. I'd wait till maybe the Man United game to have him for an important game. I feel like we should be beating Crystal Palace with Kettler starting. So I would just wait.
Yeah. Carter, are you of a similar opinion that you feel like our quality should be good enough to beat Palace without Alisson, even though Kelleher's performance left a lot to be desired for some in the Fulham game?
I think I did see weirdly, I think he's played less than 30 games for Liverpool, but there have been some games where he has been very impressive. But obviously this season seemed to slack off. So I think if you can't play him for Sheffield and Crystal Palace, we may as well just not rid our hands of him, because that's a bit harsh. But you know what I mean? Like, if he can't play in those games, if we can't trust him, and we have to risk Alisson, and then let's say Alisson's been out for 8 weeks, that could be the difference between, I don't want to say getting top 4, but that could, if everything just crumbles, if we get a load of injuries to the back 4 and Kelleher plays like that, we could be in serious trouble. So I just think you've got to play, you just got to wait till Alisson's 100%. We don't have enough quality depth to risk him.
Yeah. Paul, very much in agreement there. I know I'm in agreement on that. If there's a chance of re-aggravation, bringing him back too soon, don't risk it.
But the smart move is to rest Alisson for the Man United game. But the fact that he is back in training this week, that suggests to me that he wasn't really badly hurt. Maybe it was just a scare. It wasn't what they thought. So if Alisson is fully fit, I'm playing him against Palace. And as I said, if there's any doubt that he may need more time, then absolutely. But we were told that he was going to be out for a few weeks. And if he's back in training already, that suggests to me that he wasn't really hurt. Maybe the scan wasn't as bad as what they thought. So whilst I'm leaning towards giving him until Man U game, as I said, if he's fully fit, I'm sticking him in there, because we need to get 3 points in all of these games. And Kelleher is a good player, but he's a backup, and he's a backup for a reason.
Yeah. No, I agree. To be honest, Kelleher's performance left a lot to be desired. Watching it back, there were some silly mistakes that he did make. I am one of his staunchest defenders in that game. I don't think the first goal was his fault. I think he could have done an awful lot better on the second goal. The third goal, I think, was the fault of Virgil van Dijk and Tsimikas. Just the two of them. I think the second goal was possibly he was most at fault. The first goal, I don't think he was at fault at all, realistically.
I think Kelleher was he looked a little bit nervous to me yesterday. I wonder if playing away, our next 2 games are on the road. Maybe that may be a little bit better for him, because he just looks like he just didn't want to make a mistake. Didn't know, should I stay on my line? Should I come and be dominant? He was kind of just caught, especially the second goal. He was kind of half. I'm coming, I'm staying. I'm coming, I'm staying. And then, so I think he looked a little bit nervous. I'm pretty sure, I would suggest that playing on the road for the next 2 games against a team that we should at least dominate the ball should be fine. So probably, we should just, Alisson, get ready for Man U.
Yeah, well, realistically, like we've Sheffield on Wednesday, then we've Crystal Palace on Saturday, and then we have USG. I don't know if that's
both away on the road, right? Both
Sheffield and Palace are both away from home. Yeah,
right.
I think the USG game is away, so all 3 games are away, and then we're back at home against Man United. So I think just start Kelleher for the next 3 games, and
maybe
leave it at that.
maybe for Crystal Palace game, put Alisson on the bench instead of Adrian, just in case.
Yeah, that'd be my only. Even at that, I wouldn't even bring him on, in my own opinion. And I see and
injuries.
Yeah. Jen just mentions here, Kelleher just needs a run of games. Tsimikas is the perfect example of that. Started out horrifically. We all wanted him gone, sacked, sent on the next boat out of Liverpool docks. But now all of a sudden he's actually performing quite well and being very defensively sound. So especially keepers. Keepers are confidence players. Similarly to strikers, they're just on they're polar opposites in where they play in position wise, but they're confidence players. And the more confidence and the more game time you can get under your legs as a goalkeeper, the better, which is why I felt like the last game might have actually helped him, but in actuality he kind of regressed a bit in the Fulham game. So hopefully the game against Sheffield and the game against Palace can be, and the game against USG as well. To be fair, I'd actually like to see Pitaluga against USG in my own opinion, or even Varos, one of the 2 development squad guys. But either way, it's great to have Alisson coming back, and it's absolutely fantastic news that he's going to be back that soon. Jamie's mentions here as well that the new manager bounce, so to speak, could hit us on Wednesday. But I personally think that we should have good enough quality to beat Sheffield. If Burnley can put 5 past Sheffield, we could put out a second team and put 3 past them. Carter, do you have any worry about maybe a new manager bounce just before we play them?
I think the only thing that not puts me off, but is obviously we went there the year we won the league, and they sort of sat back. Obviously, they were a much, much better team at that point, but sat with almost like those 3 sort of, I can't remember what they were called, but like overlapping centre-backs, and sort of sat in the 5, and we did struggle a bit. So I am a bit, if we go and it's 5 at the back and the pressure starts ticking on, but I do have full confidence. Like maybe even for that game, I'd like to see someone like Harvey come in, who's maybe got a bit more of an eye for like a little acute sort of flick over for like Gakpo or someone like that. I'd maybe like to see him start.
Menti, would you be of a similar opinion that like while we should have the quality, there's a slight bit of a worry that if they sit back and park the bus, that we may not be able to break them down? And as Carter mentions, as the minutes tick on and no goal is there, it'll be similar to the Luton game.
I'm not too worried about it just because the Luton game happened pretty early in the season. I feel like this game is more where Klopp is going to try to perfect that 3-4-3 that Man City and Arsenal have been using. So when Trent goes in midfield, I feel like with the McAllister, he's still like playing him at the 6. I feel like they're just going to try to actually like get better at that tactic. That's what I see. But with the quality we have, there's no way we should lose. We shouldn't even drop points.
Paul, similar opinion. Do you feel like this might be a repeat of the Luton game, that it may be a trap game where we drop 2 points, or do you see 3 points coming from this fixture? Are you worried about Sheffield at all, especially with the new manager coming in?
Not really, because the players are just not good enough. And if we can't beat Sheffield United, then we should not be thinking of finishing ahead of Man City. Obviously, I don't expect us to give them 5, 6, or 8. Because unlike the game when they played just against Burnley, the Burnley game was a game where they thought that they could get something from the game. So they were more, enterprising in their approach. With us, I expect them to sit back and defend with 5 or 6 players. But if we can't beat them, then what's the point? So I think we will win comfortably, not necessarily 6-7, but and the important thing when you play these games is to get that early goal.
Yeah.
And I am not as concerned about this game as I was about the Luton game, because I watched them and I just don't see the quality in them. Even the goalkeeper, he just looks like he's like a deer in the headlight when the ball is coming in his direction. So they, to me, are not a Premier League team. So we should be comfortable.
Yeah, I'd be much in agreement with that as well. It does worry me that we have a little bit of difficulty in breaking down teams that like to sit in front of their box. It happened again against Fulham. We just don't, and to be honest, we need somebody, as Carter mentioned, as a Harvey Elliott who likes to run, and we need Dominic Szoboszlai to be that kind of a midfielder that likes to break the line and run forward. It's a game that we should win, and it's a game that I hope we do win to progress us on further. I think who are City playing? There's City are playing, Arsenal are playing Luton. I can't remember who City are playing.
Villa, I think maybe Aston Villa.
Aston
away.
Villa,
Yeah, Aston Villa away. Well, yeah. I could see Ollie Watkins getting a goal there. Realistically, I could, like, with how Man City are at the back at the moment. Like, if Spurs, without any creativity in them whatsoever, can put 3 past them, again, it's away from home for them, so I can see City dropping more points between now and Christmas. Arsenal, obviously, I don't think they'll have much of a problem against Luton, even though it is away from home.
No, Arsenal at home, I think.
No, they're away. They're away from home.
Okay.
They're away.
Yeah. They're in Kennington Road.
So who would be your 3 midfielders for this game, Stephen?
I actually done the prediction for it, so if that's been recorded, so it's getting edited now at the moment. My midfield 3 would have been Endo, McAllister, and Szoboszlai. That would have been my midfield 3, purely because we've seen McAllister in
That's number 8.
in that number 8 position, and all of a sudden he absolutely fires a piss missile into the top corner. Like, so if anything to get him more into that position and more forward that way, I'm all for. And if playing Endo against Sheffield, which I think Endo would do very well against, and it's a game that he could come in and start and play a lot of minutes in, I think it'd be him. Who'd be your starting midfield? So, and I'll go to Menti and Carter as well about it.
I'm tempted to give Szoboszlai a break. Obviously, Szoboszlai is still in our best 11. Don't get me wrong, but he has played a lot of football, not just for us but for Hungary as well. And we are playing. We just played Sunday. We're playing Wednesday, and then we're playing a weekend again.
Saturday. Yeah.
Right. So I probably would just say to him, "Listen, you're not being dropped. Just giving you a break because you played too much football," and probably start Endo, Harvey Elliott, and McAllister. That would be my 3, because we have the firepower on the bench if we need to make changes. So I would probably give Szoboszlai a break for this one because we need him for Palace.
Yeah, I'd agree. Boo 43 mentions that he doesn't think McAllister has the legs to be an 8 o'clock 4-3-3. Menti, who would have been your? Sorry, Paul, were you about to say something there?
No, I would just say I disagree with that comment. That's it. I doesn't have the legs. Yeah, I disagree.
I disagree with that as well.
Smart. He's a smart player.
Yeah, I completely disagree with it as well. I don't know how you could assume that he doesn't, because if he's the legs to play a 6 in a Klopp 4-3-3, he has the legs to play any position in a 4-3-3.
And plus playing for Argentina, he does all the running for Messi, and Messi doesn't move.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So no, I disagree.
Menti, your midfield 3, who would you have?
I actually agree with yours. I think yours is pretty good. So
McAllister.
Yeah, I do agree with Paul that he does need rest. But yeah, if that's the case, I could see Elliot or Gravenberch playing. So, but other than that, I think it's the 3 that you said.
Carter, similar opinion, or do you have your own personalized one?
I like that midfield, but the only issue I think is it would be quite easy to sort of overrun that midfield. It's quite a small, midfield. It's not the best in sort of winning the duel or like maybe pinning someone in and winning the second ball when they knock it out. So I'd probably I'd like McAllister, Elliot, and one of Jones, Szoboszlai, or Gravenberch just to add a bit more size and a bit more physicality. Like Jones wins the ball a lot. I'd maybe like to see Jones and Elliot probably as 2 8s.
No, that's an interesting one to see Jones and Elliot. Gravenberch didn't have the best of games at the weekend. However, I thought he ran well. I thought he covered well. I thought he pressed well. I just don't think he advanced the ball very well. But I still think he performed well, especially against Man City the game prior. But you're only as good as your last game, and I think him playing big minutes in the Europa League match didn't necessarily help either. He had a fair bit of minutes there. I really don't see why we needed to bring on starting players midweek when we could have won that game very comfortably. Okay. But I think those are very solid midfields. I think any midfield, and isn't it an absolute great problem to have that we could change in 5 or 6 different players in the midfield? We would have begged for this last season. We would have been over the moon with this last season. So it's a great problem to have. Just having a look here through the comments, see if I can see anything that's mentioned here. There is one, and apparently I have to give Paul a hard time on it. It was a fantastic win, Jamie. I was loving every second of it, and I know Paul was loving every second of it as well, because fuck the Eagles, and I'm going to continue to say that, and I'm going to continue to talk my shit because I stayed quiet the whole game, and the Eagles fans and Eagles players were talking all week, and everyone stayed quiet for the 49ers, and they got smacked, and it was beautiful. So
Packers won, baby, so I'm good.
Yeah, Packers won too, so Paul's a happy guy. He beat the Chiefs, so we're all happy there. And Brock Purdy has now moved in as the favorite for the MVP, so I'm a very happy boy with that. He's plus 300 odds. Jalen Hurts is plus 350. I don't know how he's plus 350, but that is what it is. But a thing that I want to bring up, and before I do, we've nearly 50 people in here at the moment, biggest viewing we've had in quite a little while. It's always nice to see the numbers spike a little bit coming up to a transfer window. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We very much appreciate it if you can. It's free. You can change your mind later if you don't want to. And also have your notification bell on for all future streams and videos. We're live every day from 7:30 UK time. And we also have a post-game stream on Wednesday following the Sheffield United match. And we have a post-game stream on Saturday following the Crystal Palace match. Words escaped me there for a moment. But I'm going to move on now to a different topic, and that is more transfer news in Khéphren Thuram. Apparently, Liverpool at the minute are currently negotiating with Nice for a deal of in and around 30 to 35 million pounds, which, if you knew what the price tag was in the summer of being 45 million pounds or more, I think is a much, much more reasonable offer to have him knocking at minimum 15 million, or at maximum, should I say, 15 million off his price tag. 10 to 15 million taken off that price tag. If we got another midfielder similarly to a profile of Gravenberch that can come in and play as a box-to-box defensive midfielder and be a ball-playing technical player, I think it would be fantastic. I do worry, however, and this is my only worry, that he would stunt the development. The addition of Thuram would stunt the development and the minutes allocated to the likes of Elliot and Elliot and Bajcetic. Maybe that's just me being a little bit paranoid, but I'll throw it over to yourself first, Menti. Would you feel happy with the new addition of Khephren Thuram, obviously with the likes of maybe Diogo leaving in the next 6 to 8 months, get another young 20-year-old, 21-year-old midfielder in? As Jamie mentions, is he the Andre alternative if we moved off Andre? Because Andre news has gone very quiet recently. Do you feel he maybe stunt the development of Elliot and Bajcetic, or what do you think?
I really don't think he's going to stunt their growth at all, just because he's similar to their age. Like we talked about it before. Good players make other good players better. So if we perform well, it's more likely that the people like Elliot, Bajcetic, everyone's going to get playing time. That's not what I'm worried about. But since Klopp is trying to move to that 3-box-3 like Arsenal and City, I think he's just perfect just because he stands around at, 6'4"?
Big dude.
Yeah, this year, like if you look at his last 3 games for Nice, he played 2 in the CDM position, and they won, draw 1 and 1-1. And then the last game, he went to left CM, they lost. So he's been moving around left, right, middle as well. So we are looking for that, not a traditional 6. So I do see him coming for that reason. And I just think it's going to be good competition. So it's only going to make them better.
Yeah, I think so as well. Iron sharpens iron. Carter, a question that's mentioned here by Boom Boom 43, such a name. I find it funny every time I say it. Does he deserve to come after his antics last time? Now, these are the rumored antics that Khephren Thuram was demanding a major salary at the time. He's currently on about 25 grand a week, 25,000 euro, that is. And he was apparently asking for over 150,000 a week from us when the likes of his French multiple times capped compatriot Ibrahima Konate is only on, I think it's 75,000 a week with Liverpool, and people thought that was silly money to be paying a guy that's done absolutely nothing in the Premier League yet. Do you think he deserves to come and deserves to be shown after his antics last time, Carter, or do you even feel that the antics last time were even warranted?
I mean, I think sometimes when you look at the players in our squad and you sort of look, obviously you don't know exactly probably, but they probably have connections and can look and say, this guy's on this amount of money, this guy's on this amount of money. And personally, if I'm Thuram and I'm coming in, and this is, I think it was before Henderson went to Aletifak, if I'm there and Henderson's on £150,000 a week, you might not get it, but I'm at least asking for that. No offense to that. I know he's a club captain, but if you're looking at, you're not played, like football is like a cold, heartless game most of the time. Like clubs will drop you. Like as loyal as you want players to be, clubs are not very loyal to players. So if you see someone and you think he's got this much money, I'm better than him, I'm coming in to start over him, I think fair enough. Start your negotiation high, and if it gets like taken down to a lower amount, that's fine. But if you think that's what you're worth, I think it's a free market. You can ask for what you want. It's just if the club's going to match it.
Yeah, no, I agree. All you can be done is told no, but I think it's more the attitude at the time that was portrayed in the reports that we received. I don't know if you were part of the group at the time. I don't think any of you three were. It was that he was kind of throwing his toys out of the pram, and it was his dad demanding serious wages at the time, and then agent sign-on fees and everything like that. Similarly to how Jude Bellingham got major sign-on fees for his dad and his agent and everything, and Liverpool kind of looked at him and laughed and said, yeah, that's not how we conduct business. Jog on, mate. Now, it was never confirmed, any of these reports, but it was it was worrying of the character at the time. And as Paul likes to mention when we bring up Mbappe, he doesn't like divas, and it was very much diva behavior. So I'll throw the same question to yourself, Paul. I'm not sure if you were aware of the news at the time earlier on in the summer.
Yeah.
I think you might have been part of the channel, at least watching the channel when we were discussing it. But do you think if he was to come, would you forgive previous antics, or do you feel, as I think, where was it mentioned, as Vase of Flowers mentions here, we need spending in other departments rather than another midfielder at the moment?
Yeah, if the reported price of 35 million ish is correct, I would have no problem with him coming. First of all, he would be, to me, the perfect replacement for Thiago, and they both are still on Thiago right now. Secondly, I don't mind a player with a little bit of arrogance, something to prove if they're really, really good. And the fact that we were willing to walk away and say no, at least he should understand how we roll at Liverpool. So yeah, if he comes, I would be happy with that. No worries. He's not an out and out six, but I think he would probably be the perfect player to play the double pivot with Trent. So yeah, he's a good player. He hasn't won anything yet, but he comes from good stock. And I mean, we're not going to pay 50 million, but for 35 million, I'll take a punt on him. Yeah, why not?
I mean, yeah, like at the end of the day, he doesn't work out. You sell him on for the same price that you got him. We don't make a loss. Yeah. Everybody's happy. I think it's worth a shot. A young, strong, fast, technically sound player that can play in the centre defensive midfield role and could develop into that very easily. Similarly to Ryan Gravenberch, they both have a similar body type and play style of a box to box, and could come in and be a Gini Wijnaldum sort of a replacement, both of them. And with the likes of Thiago on the way out and other players as well that may be on the way out from that midfield, I don't think too many of them in there is going to ever be an issue. Oh, did we lose Carter? No, he's back.
Plus, another motivation for him is his countryman. Because when Konate joined Liverpool, he wasn't being featured. He wasn't on the radar for the France national team.
Yeah.
Right. And we make Konate into a solid defender now. He's almost a certain for his national team. Thuram, I'm pretty sure his ambition is to represent France like his dad. So he has a much better chance to come and start for Liverpool than what he's doing at Nice. So if he's a motivated player, which I think he would be at this stage, and Klopp said to him, listen, we're not going to promise you that you will start. You are going to determine if you start based on how you perform.
Yeah.
Then I would be all over that.
I would too. Like as Menti mentioned earlier, iron sharpens iron, and good players in the midfield that buy into the system will only improve the other players that are there at the moment. Jimmy's mentions here that he wants, his dad wants PSG. I don't know if PSG would even have a place for him. Maybe with Ugarte not particularly performing well at the moment, they might be looking to bring in some competition for him. But and that could be a channel to the French side as well, playing with the best team in France outside of Nice at the moment. To be honest, I don't know why he'd move laterally from Nice to PSG at the moment rather than moving up to the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man City, and Man United. Even though they are shit at the moment, I'd still rank them as a bigger club than PSG. Money, maybe, like we've seen it with Moises Caicedo, we've seen it with Levi Colwill, actually, yeah, and we've seen it with Romeo Lavia too. That money was a big influence there. So PSG clearly have money to burn, so they don't necessarily mind spending it on their players. But yeah, I could see him playing for PSG, although I think that would be detrimental to his career, and I don't think he'll do fuck all with them, to be perfectly honest with you. But with that, I want to move on to one of the last topics I want to discuss, and that is our Starboy Trent Alexander-Arnold, because I seen a comment that was mentioned earlier that seeing him make an impact in the midfield in the second half, you'd nearly Jamie Hughes is
Number
leaning nearly
66.
yeah.
Can
Jamie
you see
Hughes is
it?
nearly leaning to adding a right back to allow him to move up there, and then
No.
we wouldn't necessarily need to spend money on a midfielder.
No.
But the counterpoint that I'm going to make to that, Jamie Hughes, is what would anybody consider the main job of a defender? Is it winning the ball back? Carter, Menti, Paul, would you all be in agreement that winning the ball back is the main job of a defender?
Correct.
Well, for anybody in the chat, Trent has more ball recoveries per 90 than Kyle Walker, Reece James, Ruben Diaz, Kieran Trippier, Diogo Dalot, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, John Stones, Gvardiol, Nathan Aki, Akanji, Rico Lewis, William Saliba, Harry Maguire, Ben White, Tomiyasu, Zinchenko, Gabriel, Levi Colwell, Gusto, Thiago Silva, Alexi Diassi, Batashila, Pedro Porro, Destiny Udoji, Christian Romero, Matty Cash, Fabian Schär, Dan Burns, Sven Botman, and Lewis Dunk. He has a better ball recovery rate than all of those players. And that is essentially a defender's job, to recover the ball. And I get what Boom Boom 43 mentions here when they say preventing goals. You do that by getting the ball back. And Trent is quite literally better than pretty much 90% of the people that I've mentioned there. And to put on top of that, he has more goals and assists and goal contributions against the top six than every other right back and defender have against the entire league. So Trent against the top six has more than every other defender against the rest of the league. Carter, is it time to possibly put the crown on Trent Alexander-Arnold's head that he is the best right back to ever play in the Premier League?
I think so, because I think, as you said, with the what's the job of a defender? Well, I think let's say we were a back four, right? And Paul was as good as Virgil van Dijk. It actually does not matter, because if the rest of us are all rubbish, or we don't play bad, or someone else's mistake, even if someone defends really well, you still concede. So like Kyle Walker might stop you losing 3 or 4 games a year. Trent wins us 20 games a season. Like genuinely, Trent and Salah win us more games than any other player by a mile. Like I've never seen a defender win more games for a team ever. Like I think Trent has maybe 101 goals and assists. And you look at someone like Reece James. Reece James has played 104 Premier League games. Like, and you can only do so much defensively. Like defensively, sometimes you can defend unbelievably and the player just goes past you. But like Trent is genuinely like having a sixth attacker. Like no other team genuinely has like De Bruyne at right back. Like that's what's allowed us to bridge the gap to City. Because no matter what, if I'm not going to hate on Henderson or anyone like that, but if City had Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, three attackers, even if our midfield's not as good, Trent has helped us bridge the gap. Trent has given us another elite attacker from fullback. Like genuinely, no one's ever had that. Like it wouldn't surprise me if he very quickly catches up to Roberto Carlos's total, because I think I've never seen him play. I was too young. I think he was playing in Russia, but I don't think he's actually got that many goals and assists sort of in the top leagues for how long he played. So Trent is probably going to catch a lot of these guys, apart from maybe someone who played in black and white, whose name I can't think of. But Trent's probably going to end up there or thereabouts.
I completely agree. And it's something that I think he needs to be crowned the best right back of all time. As Gary Neville, who hates Liverpool, said, he's not a right back, he's the right back. And as you mentioned, Carter, it's the players around you, and it's the job of a defender to get the ball back, and that's what he does. Menti, would you be in agreement with Carter that and myself that he needs to have that crown put on him now, because he is quite literally a Steven Gerrard-esque player? And this is I'll just finish with this before I throw the question to yourself. That game against Fulham, we wouldn't have won without Trent Alexander-Arnold. Take the goals out of it, but purely the dragging us along felt very Steven Gerrard-esque of like, and I think it was discussed by Dan on the post-game stream that Trent is the kind of player that would be like, give me the ball, I'm going to win us this game. and for that alone, I think he needs to be crowned as the best right back in the Premier League and in Premier League history, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you guys. The fact that he's a right back and he sets the tempo for our games, as well as like he's just a game changer. Whenever we ever seen a right back be the game changer in a starting 11, it's crazy to me that he's doing it at right back position. We haven't even seen him hit his prime yet. I feel like from the next 3 years, we're gonna see a side of Trent that he surprised me. I'm mad about sometimes whenever he gets beat on defense, but he makes up for it. Like the overall player he is, the comparisons between him and Reece James, that's got to stop. That never needs to be a conversation, because if you want to be world class, you got to be available. That's all I'm saying. So,
if you want a funny stat? Reece James in his career has never played 3 games in a row.
Oh.
That's crazy.
And you can fact check me on that. Reece James has never played 3 games in a row.
That's crazy.
That's nuts. Like, how can you be considered even in the conversation of an average Premier League right back if you can't even play 4 games in a row? 3 games in a row. He's never played 3 games in a row in his whole career. The most minutes he had was when he was on loan at, I believe it was Wigan.
Yeah,
and that was in 2019. Since 2000, and he had more minutes with Wigan than he's had with Chelsea since, and that's 2019. But yet he's thrown into, and he's now the captain of Chelsea as well. I mean, it's great to be a captain from a bench. Paul, do you think this crown of the greatest of all time of right backs should be bestowed upon Trent? Even maybe we're looking at a recency bias from the last couple of performances, the Man City game, the game against Fulham where he bagged another 2, even though one of them was an own goal, or looking at his career as a whole so far. It is very much Gerrard-esque that he, in a lot of crucial moments, he drags us forward and he can win us games. And his defensive frailties don't seem to necessarily be there when you dive into the numbers a little bit.
Greatest right back of all time. I'm a little bit hesitant to bestow that on him right now.
In the Premier League, perhaps.
Because football has changed quite a bit over the last decade. What I can tell you is Trent is probably the only right back in history, well, in the Premier League history, that give managers headache. Opposing managers I'm talking about. Every team that's going to play Liverpool, the first 2 players that they worry about is Mo Salah and our right back. So that, I think, is the best right back in the world right now. But as it relates to all time, I don't know. It's a little bit early for that for me. And as to the argument about moving him to midfield, I don't think that makes much sense, really.
Yeah.
Because I think we're going to lose a lot of what Trent brings to the table if we move him to midfield. Because what he's doing right now is creating headache for defenders by overloading that midfield.
Yeah.
So we essentially play with 4 midfielders. To put Trent in the midfield and put a Gomez or somebody at right back, we're going to lose that. So he's our asset right now, and I think we're using him properly, and I think we should just enjoy the ride.
A follow-up to that from Hellier here, Paul. Is Trent wasted as a right back, or do you think that's his better position? Do you think maybe a right central midfielder or even a right midfielder might be a better role for him?
If Trent would, as a midfielder, would only work to me if we were playing a 4-4-2 system. With just the 3 midfielders right now with the 4-3-3, if we put him in midfield, then he would be the 6 with 2 8s. And that to me does not work, because he needs somebody beside him to allow him the freedom to make those passes and don't worry about if we lose the ball or something. So I think even for England, I think Gareth Southgate knows this, but he's too scared of putting him at right back because he's worried about the backlash if we should lose a goal on that side. And he has to be loyal to Kyle Walker. But I think where he is right now at right back and comes into the midfield when we're in possession is perfect. I think that's the right spot, and he should stay there.
See, I think he's played in midfield for England because they have Kyle Walker as right back. If Liverpool had Kyle Walker as right back, I'm pretty sure trying to be playing midfield. without question, because as it stands at the moment, we don't necessarily have an awful lot of cover at right back. We've Joe Gomez, but after that, it's a bit of a big drop off. So I think the only reason he does play in midfield is because he's getting the backlash from him not playing and them losing results because possibly Trent isn't there. Whereas when he is there, they have so much more creative attacking prowess going forward. And I think if Kyle Walker wasn't there, he'd be starting as a right back. That's not to say Kyle Walker is a better right back than Trent. It's just that Trent is a better midfielder than 90% of the English midfielders that are there. And having Kyle Walker as a good right back allows you to play a Trent there. That's just my 2 cents on it. But I agree with you. I think putting him as a right back is probably his best position, and allowing him to invert and then play a Kevin De Bruyne role as a deep lying playmaker and firing balls left, right, and penetrative passes left and right as well is probably the best use of him at this moment. Now I can see him moving into the midfield as he goes later on in his career and sort of being a holding guy. So yeah, I could see that. I'm just trying to think now, is there anything else that we need to mention before I go on forward with anything else? No, not necessarily. I don't see anything. If there's any questions from the chat, please do feel free to fire any questions in. I know I have one here from Halier about the Sky deal with 6.7 billion from Sky Sport and TNT Sport. A whole lot of money, and you can only hope for more quality from that organization. Well, Halier, not to be crude about it, but you can hope in one hand and shit in the other and see which one gets filled first when you talk about Sky Sports. I don't see anything good coming from that deal whatsoever. The 3 p.m. blackouts are going to continue, and I'm shocked, to be honest, that they haven't gone a similar route to the NFL, where they've gone with a subscription-based service that allows you to watch every game and even have playback on them, because the NFL does that, and they charge you €167 a year. That's in Ireland anyway, for the NFL Game Pass. I'm not sure what it is over in America or Canada, Menti and Paul. But that's what I pay, and I have no problem with that. I guarantee if everybody had to pay £150 or even £200 for all of the Premier League games in a season, I don't think anybody would have any issues with that whatsoever. Do you expect anything different, Menti, from this TV deal, or much of the same? Sky have promised to show 215 more games. I believe they're showing 70% of the games now, but the 3 p.m. blackouts are still going to continue, unfortunately.
Honestly, when it's as an American, whenever something's on Sky Sports, it's just a little bit annoying for us to watch. But just like you said, it's better if it's like subscription, like when the NFL did it with like Amazon Prime or like the NFL Network. It's worth the money when you pay for it. I saw initially that the Premier League were going to do something with Netflix, like a subscription base, because that just allows people from anywhere around the world. You pay the subscription, you get to watch the game. I don't know why I have to subscribe to like 5 different things just to watch one game. It's just like Peacock, TNT, CBS. It's just a little bit annoying.
Fox as well on top of it.
Yeah, it's really annoying. But hopefully it could just be in one place where we could just watch it. But I doubt that happening with Sky Sports. They're terrible.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. Carter, a similar one of the arguments that people would make, not in favor of Sky Sports, but as to why Sky Sports or the Premier League haven't gone down the route of a streaming service similarly to the NFL Game Pass. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it yourself, but it's essentially you just pay €170 or pounds and you get everything, but you get the broadcast from the service providers. So you could be watching CBS, you could be watching TNT, you could be watching Fox Sports, and it's broadcast from them but through the NFL streaming service. So it'll be the same thing, just Sky Sports broadcasting and the Premier League putting it on their streaming service. As Andy mentions here, it's £25 a month in App Sports for his one in his one in Australia. I've gone down the route of getting a dodgy box because I found myself paying up nearly, if you wanted to watch every Premier League game last season, I think you would have had to have paid about £800 to £900, which is absolutely criminal for any average person who wants to watch the games. Can you see anything positive coming out of this new deal with Sky, or is it just the next 6 years of the same shit again with 3 p.m. blackouts and poorly picked games, similarly to how this weekend went, with good games between Liverpool and Fulham and Chelsea and Brighton being passed over for a boring game between Palace and Bournemouth.
I've just grown, like, it's just ridiculous. Like, I remember when the games came out on Amazon Prime, which isn't as big an issue, because for a lot of people do have Amazon Prime because it's just an easy thing and it is kind of worth the money. But it's just like, you sit down, your game's not on. Like, I feel sorry. Like, I'm at university in Bournemouth, and it's like, if you don't have a season ticket, how many games are going to be on the TV? Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, imagine if you support Bournemouth or Brentford and you pay whatever. Like, I think I don't pay for it. My dad pays for it. Sky and BT, like, that's a lot of money. Then if you put Amazon Prime on top of that, like, it's just ridiculous. Like, I personally, I don't use these, but if you don't have a dodgy stick, there's a lot of accounts on Twitter that sometimes live stream the game, and I've taught a few older people that this is available. But it's just ridiculous. Like, it's just horrible, and I hate having to go on. Like, sometimes commentary is terrible, but on some of them, it's like you have to watch BN Sports and stuff, and I can't understand it, and it just takes away from the whole experience. Like, streams go down. Like, I just don't get why they would put this barrier up to people, because realistically, I don't know any of us. Like, I know one or two people who play, like, non-league, and maybe I'd go and support them occasionally. But most people, if you watch non-league, having the game on at 3 p.m. isn't going to stop you. Like, you are going there, you're going to some cold place, probably in the middle of nowhere, and you're watching these teams. Like, I actually just don't understand it. Like, it just seems like a bit of a joke. Like, you look at the NBA League Pass as well. Like, it just seems like I physically just can't understand it. Like,
yeah, like Paul, if it's a money point of view, and 99 times out of 100 it is, surely they could look at the models that the NBA, the Major League Baseball, and the NFL have developed in their streaming services, with DAZN for the NFL, the Major League, the MLB Pass, and the NBA Pass for their respective organizations. But again, as I mentioned, they still stream the TV broadcast, whether it be Fox, whether it be CBS, whether it be TNT or whoever it may be at the time, or NCBS or whoever it is. They don't seem to comprehend the fact that they're quite literally alienating fans, and they're alienating fans to a degree that is going to increase illegal streaming. And Carter, that never uses the Twitter streams, it's almost pushing people that way, unfortunately. And if they're not seeing the forest between the trees, if that makes sense. It seems like a very stupid financial decision as well.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around the situation that I can be here in Canada and I can watch every single Premier League game, and a Liverpool supporter living in Liverpool might not be able to watch a game on TV, either because it's a home game or it's one of those games that's just not being broadcast on Sky. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't remember how much I'm paying for streaming, but it's not a lot of money. I have all the Champions League games. I have every Premier League. I even have the Championship. You know, if I want to watch Leeds United playing Blackburn or whatever it is, I can. So, you know, I just don't get it. If you want to grow the game and if you want to make money, it's just a no-brainer. So maybe because I'm not in the UK, so I don't understand the real rationale behind it. But to me, I just don't see how it makes sense to deprive people from legally be able to watch a game. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Especially with the price of tickets to go to a game nowadays. Like, it's the average fan. As Carter mentioned, people in Bournemouth, more than likely on a given weekend, anybody that supports Bournemouth may not see their team on a live TV broadcast because there's only three. Two on, I think it depends on the day, but there could only be 3 or 2 on Sky Sports, and then the other one's on Premier Sport or BT Sport, one or the other.
What's the average price of tickets now for, say, Anfield? And does the ticket price change depending on the opponent?
See, the issue with it is now is getting tickets to an Anfield game. They have developed a hilariously funny business model to do it. You have to pay a membership to get into a ballot to possibly have the privilege of spending another £50 or £60 on a ticket. So you're paying £50 to maybe pay another £50 for a ticket. And it depends on the game. The prices can fluctuate. If you really wanted to get to a game and you wanted a guaranteed ticket for that game, you'd nearly have to buy hospitality, which can range anywhere from £200 to £1,000 per ticket, depending on the game, obviously. So a game against the game that I'm looking to go to next season, and I say next season, next year, would have been a midweek game against Sheffield at home. That'll be that game at home, and I think the ticket to get over and back, to stay 2 nights in Liverpool, hotels, flights, and tickets would cost me about £600 in total for there and back. Now, to me, I may never get to go to another Liverpool game with how the prices are going and how the current economy is, but that's not a topic for this type of a stream. But to me, that would be worth it. But that's only because I'm flying from Ireland. You were mentioning that you wanted to come to a game as well. And you're flying from Canada. So you have to fly from Canada to possibly Ireland or London, and then go from either Ireland or London all the way up to Liverpool, and then also see a game, and then also make the same trip home, which is probably going to set you back in at least 4 figures worth of an amount, maybe a couple of thousand.
Yep.
So for you, it's definitely possibly once in a lifetime. I'm spoiled, and I'm here, and I have to spend 600. Menti, I'm sure you're very much in a similar boat, that if you wanted to come over, it's that too. So with the prices of tickets and everything like that, and the prices of travel, and it being such a global sport, you'd think that they'd try and make it as at least at minimal accessible to everybody to watch it. But they seem to just be throwing up walls left and right, and it just baffles me from a business point of view. And it's leading more people to buy your dodgy boxes, to go on your streams on Twitter, to illegally stream it, and it's just a complete money grabbing and monopolizing thing that they're trying to do, and it's honestly heartbreaking.
So then what's the rationale for like that 3 p.m. blackout I hear you guys talk about all the while? What's the rationale for that?
Carter, can you shed light on it? Because I haven't an absolute bull's notion as to why it happens. I know, like, you're in the UK, you might know a little bit more than myself about it with me over in Ireland. So what's the rationale with it?
So I think basically to protect like non-league and lower league, I think there was a time where they thought people would stop going and supporting like lower league teams. So like if you have like, I don't want to say a team, I'm just going to say Barnsley. Like, let's say Barnsley get 20,000 people. They think maybe if all the games are shown on TV, they might only get 10,000. So it's to ensure that teams get people, like there's bums in seats and people go to non-league. Because if you know at 3 p.m. on the day it won't be shown, you're more likely to maybe go and watch a game, go to a game. But now it's just like there's too many ways around it. Like before it made sense. Like I might say, let's say I'm in university in Bournemouth. Let's say Bournemouth are in the Championship. If I can only watch one game on the TV this week, maybe I go to Bournemouth and watch another game. But there's just now like, why would I go to the game when I can watch every game? I can watch every game. You can watch every game and bits and pieces. So why would you? So it is a bit, but I just think it's to try and protect lower league teams, like especially non-league, to make sure people come. But now there's too many ways around it. Like it's just like an ancient rule. Like it just doesn't make sense now.
I think it's gone past its time. And realistically, if you were going to go and watch that team, you would go and watch them, as he said, at Barnsley, or even in Liverpool, at Tranmere Rovers, or over in Birkenhead. Like there's that level to it. If you were a Tranmere Rovers fan, you would go to a Tranmere Rovers game, or you would go so you would be able to watch a Tranmere Rovers game. It's not necessarily the hardest thing to get access to, and blacking out them games at 3 p.m. is just harming the mid-tier teams of the Premier League and the other leagues below. I understand the protection of the smaller teams in the league from League 1, League 2 and the Championship, but then in the same conversation, an FA Cup third round between Liverpool and Arsenal, what the fuck is that about? Like,
yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. Why it's not seeded? I don't get it.
So why are you saying, oh, we're doing this to protect the teams? The smaller teams, your Barnsleys, your Derbys, your MK Dons, your Portsmouths, teams that have so much history in the English Football League, your Tranmere Rovers, the Leyton Orients, whatever have you. But then you have Arsenal against Liverpool in the third round of the FA Cup, for God's sake. And then you have two non-league teams, I say non-league teams, two League One or League Two teams playing against each other. And that does nothing for them. Whereas they could go and play against Liverpool or have Liverpool go to them, have all the eyes on them and have a major payday from TV deals, from sponsors, from ticket sales, from the whole lot, concession sales, everything. That would be their yearly pay. Because some of these teams are their payrolls are like Mo Salah would earn in a week what a lot of these teams would pay out in salaries in a year. And it's absolutely shocking to give in one hand but take from another. And it baffles the mind, because if it's a money point of view, they're shooting themselves in the foot. But it just seems to be a greed point of view that we have this and we don't want anybody else to have it, unfortunately. That's probably the best description of it that I can give you, Paul, realistically, and Menti, from this side of the pond, so to speak. It's such a stupid decision. Like, you guys see how quick and good it works with the NFL Game Pass, NBA Game Pass, and the Major League Baseball Game Pass as well. It works. It's a model that works, but they just refuse to use it. And after a certain amount of time, it's not ineptitude. It's just pure greed and not wanting anybody else to share the pie. But that would be my 2 cents on it. And we've just gone over the hour mark. So I think we might leave
one
it
question
there.
before you go.
Go for it.
So we play Arsenal twice in January.
Yeah.
Premier League and this FA Cup.
Yeah.
If you could guarantee a win in only one, which game you choosing?
FA Cup.
Really?
Yeah, FA Cup, because Arsenal are going to drop points later on in the season because they have Champions League and then they have the Carabao Cup as well. And if they go far enough in the Champions League, which I think they could get to about the quarterfinals in, they're going to have injury problems because they don't have a deep bench. And them going, the further they go in that competition, the more their starters have to play, meaning the more they may drop points on a weekend, meaning that would help us more. That would be my thinking behind it.
But on the flip side, if Arsenal and Liverpool are two of the three teams that most people believe can win the Premier League, so it means that a game between Arsenal and Liverpool is basically a 6-pointer, right?
I never said a loss. I just said a win. I said one would be a win. Okay. The other one could end in a draw.
Right, my question is a win and a loss.
A win and a loss? No I'd still pick the FA Cup because...
Well,
I'm the other way around.
I'm the other way around too. I would be the Prem. Just because I know Salah's not going to be there, right? If I'm not mistaken. Is he going to be in AFCON for that game?
I believe he's in AFCON for both of them.
Yeah. So, I would say the Prem is going to be a little bit more important. I don't want to lose by 1 point again.
I don't care much about the FA Cup, but I mean, I would want to win it, but I would. The Prem to me is all where it is.
I suppose it swings and roundabouts, really, because us being knocked out of the FA Cup would mean we have less games on our plate as well. And obviously, as that competition gets towards the end of it, your starters need to play more and more. Similarly to the Europa League and similarly to the Carabao Cup.
We're going to win the Europa League. We're going to win the Europa League. I think so.
Oh, I think so as well. I'm going to be in Dublin celebrating it, and I hope anybody else that is close enough to join us will join us as well. We'll try. Do you know what we'll try and do? If we get to the Europa League final, and I'll try and swing this. We'll live stream from the pub while we're in Dublin, and I'll see if we can get that going. Because if we can get that going at all, I think that'll absolutely be two serious numbers. I think it's a fast track. But yeah, no, it's interesting that you bring that question up, Paul. I'd actually throw it to the rest of the chat as well. And Vesa Flowers gives a very strong opinion. He couldn't give a tinker's cuss about the FA Cup this year. Europa League and Premier League are the thing. I agree with you. I think Paul's converted me. I'd probably rather go with the win in the Premier League than the win in the FA Cup. But then again, it's just me looking at silverware, and I'm like, that's shiny. I want that. That's just the way that I look at things that way. But yeah, we will leave it there for this evening. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I will be back on hosting again tomorrow, so make sure to join us at 7:30 p.m. UK time tomorrow. From myself, from Paul, from Carter, from Menti, thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you've liked and subscribed. And Jen, thank you so much for the £19.99. It always helps the channel. You're an absolute star and we love you so much. Have a good evening, everybody. Have a good rest of the day wherever you are in the rest of the world. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day. Bye, guys.